tumekataa dhulma, tumekataa madharau.
He believed in that cause. He threw himself in that campaign fully.
There are few men in the history of Kenya who have accumulated fortunes like that of William Ruto.
I have paid value for any property that I have.
A man who is complex as his richness and political influence.
Mtakubali tutembee pamoja? Makueni mtakubali?
In the August elections, he was declared president-elect by Kenya's electoral body, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
Na Wasingishu mnasemaje?
This is William Ruto.
We will overcome. Enough is enough.
The president-elect of the Republic of Kenya.
The people of Kenya will prevail.
He's just 55 years old, but has risen to the position of the most powerful man in the land.
System, and we are going to have a nation that leaves no Kenyan behind.
Well, give him credit, he's a very calculating man. Very shrewd as a politician.
Ruto is a man who divides opinion.
Lazima uingie State House ndani kabisa. Arambe! Arambe!
Those who view him as the audacity of hope versus those who describe him as the most corrupt politician in Kenya.
There is nothing wrong with ambition. A man who doesn't have ambition, a nation that doesn't have ambition, is a nation that goes nowhere. You know, you must have ambition. But ambition must be controlled. It cannot be unbridled. It cannot be uncontrollable.
But one thing they agree on is that he is smart and articulate as he is rich.
Wakati mulipiga kura, muliambiwa iko form 34B. Muliambiwa iko mahali ya kuweka sahihi. Muliambiwa kuna mahali itapigwa muhuri.
But Arap Ruto wasn't born in wealth. His story actually begins in Kamagut village in Uasin Gishu County, west of the Great Rift Valley. It is here that he was born and raised up in an environment that can only be described as humble.
Mtoto wa njia moja, sana darasani tulikuwa tunaelewana. Lazima muwe team up. Kama kuna watu walikuwa wamechezea nyinyi wakati ya katikati, wengine umeandikwa noise maker hapo katikati, wakati ya kufunga shule sasa, tulikuwa tunaandamana na wengine wa pande nyingine, tunawachapa ndio tukimbie tuende nyumbani.
He went to primary school barefoot, wearing his first pair of shoes at the age of 15. He did his early schooling at Kamagut Primary School, then joined Wareng Secondary School, followed by Kapsabet Boys High School for his A-levels. He joined the University of Nairobi, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Botany and Zoology in 1990. It was during his time in the university that he cultivated his friendship with Kenya's second president and his tribesman, Daniel Arap Moi.
Baringo amjambo. Kabarnet Chamgei. Uamone.
In a past interview, William Ruto stated that his political journey started as an accident. The KICC was the scene of the apparent accident. And it happened in 1992. That year, a young graduate of the University of Nairobi came to the KICC, the headquarters of the ruling party KANU, as an intern. He was attached to the office of Professor Julia Ojambo, who was the leader of Women and Youth Affairs in KANU. It was Julia Ojambo who seconded William Ruto to the Youth for KANU movement of 1992.
I was just a student who was looking for a job.
They were the University of Nairobi sub-branch. You know, at that time we had universities sub-branches, and they were brought to KANU headquarters by the Vice Chancellor, Professor Mbithi, at that time, and we had a very good working relationship with university sub-branches, and he was part of that sub-branch, and he came to our office to also do what you say today, internship.
Being a member of the YK92 movement that campaigned for President Daniel Arap Moi during Kenya's first multi-party elections in 1992 propelled William Ruto into politics. YK92 was the youth wing of Kenya's Independence Party, formed in 1992 with the sole responsibility of mobilizing voters for Moi during the country's first multi-party elections.
So you have some people energetically going out of their way to campaign for Moi, who was assumed to have lost.
He was not different from us. He was just one of those enthusiastic individuals who supported YK92.
Despite being a junior member, his organizational and oratory skills were discovered at this point in time.
Sisi ni watu wangwana na tunataka amani.
His mastery of Kalenjin, Swahili and English language
Arambe!
became his political sword, and till now it helps him draw crowds while putting in strong performances on the podium. They were simply political operatives. Their mission was to ensure Moi stayed in power at all cost. They remain accused of dishing out money to voters in what is described as the advent of voter bribery in Kenya, electoral violence and plunder of public resources.
In the thinking of some people was that YK92, if it delivers and Moi is elected, then Moi would be so grateful to them that he was going to make one of their men the leader, the titular or some hidden leader of YK92. Cyrus Jirongo was the leader, but he was not just the leader. There were some other forces. So the assumption is Moi would be so happy that he would make one of these other leaders vice president in gratitude. If he lost, because that was also a possibility, then this outfit, YK92, will take over KANU and its machinery and turn it into a vehicle for this leader, unnamed leader. And then see how whether he can galvanize the country to make him president in future.
And so they played a big role in ensuring Daniel Arap Moi remained at the apex of the country's leadership structure. During this period, he learned the ropes of the Kenyan politics. It is also believed he accumulated some wealth during this period.
Moi knew that. And one of the first things he did as soon as he was declared the winner was to do what? He destroyed YK92 immediately because it seemingly had entertained strange thoughts.
Even as a young man aged below 30 years old, Ruto had other plans. His appetite for elective politics had been ignited. He wanted a piece of the pie.
And then he decided to hit back at Moi. And hitting back at Moi was targeting Moi's friend, Ruben Chesire. He decided to take the seat from the Chesire and worked so hard that he was elected.
Winning the Eldoret North parliamentary seat against the incumbent and President Moi's preferred candidate, Ruben Chesire, was a sign of what lay ahead for the young politician.
He proved that he was he was a force to reckon with. If he can do that, then he was a force to reckon with. And after 1997, Moi brought him now closer.
He was appointed KANU's Director of Elections. President Daniel Arap Moi was retiring and the succession battle was on. Ruto would be one of KANU's legislators who wanted the leadership of the party and the country to go to a younger leader.
No history of being losers. We shall deliver. Na tunaangalia uso yake, tunaangalia macho yake vizuri sana. Tunataka atumie sign yoyote kuonyesha ni direction gani, and will be in full combat gear.
Elders katika bunge, kila mmoja wao akiwa mwanasiasa anasema mimi niko na vijana. They are proud of the youth. Mimi niko na vijana. I think it is time hata sisi kama vijana tuseme sisi tuko na wazee.
In a move that destabilized the once indomitable party, Moi anointed Uhuru Kenyatta his preferred successor.
I think there is one credit you must give to the president, that he can read the public mood and read it well. The president did read very well that Kenyans needed change. And I don't think they are going to settle for anything less than change. And Uhuru will give that change that Kenyans want and are looking for. I think Kenyans want a change. We want new players. We want people who can do things in a different way, in a better way.
Ruto's strong support for Kenyatta saw him get a place as Assistant Minister and the Home Affairs docket. And when government ministers led by Raila Odinga resigned to join the opposition, he will be promoted to be a full cabinet minister in the ministry. Uhuru Kenyatta and KANU lost against Mwai Kibaki of NAC, a united opposition outfit. William Ruto retained his Eldoret North parliamentary seat and would become KANU's Secretary General, with Kenyatta the party chairman.
I have known Deputy President William Ruto for 19 years now. One morning in April 2003, I'm a young attorney, freshly out of law school, practicing law under my newly formed law firm, Abab Namamba Advocates. Offices on along State House Avenue. I'm seated in my office. My secretary tells me there is a gentleman at the reception who wishes to see you. I walk to my reception, and who do I find standing at my reception? William Samoei Ruto. And he tells me my name is William, and he's holding a newspaper. It was a Monday. He's holding a copy of the Sunday Nation. And he opens the page to the editorial page and says, I'm looking for the gentleman who wrote this story, who wrote this column. At that time, I was running a weekly Sunday column for the Sunday Nation. And he was showing me my column that I had penned the previous day for the Sunday Nation. So I look at it, I chuckle, and I'm like, come on, get to my office. Long story short, that encounter led to a whole host of things, including my introduction to the political space.
Time for him to grow politically had arrived, and Moi's exit from active politics presented the perfect opportunity.
Honorable Ruto told me he was on a mission to rebuild their political network that was started at that time. And later on, I would actually look back and realize that he was on a fishing expedition for political talent, fresh political blood to infuse into their movement, which at that time, one would never have imagined that the young, beaten, defeated Uhuru Kenyatta would, exactly 10 years later, in April 2013, be elected President of the Republic of Kenya, third President of the Republic, with William Ruto as his deputy.
Sharp divisions had emerged in the ruling NARC government over failure by President Mwai Kibaki to honor a 2002 pre-election agreement.
This will be, yes, it will be like this. Yes, this will be enough.
Sasa wamepata kiboko. Sasa matashika adabu, sio?
And at that time, we worked together with Raila Odinga, the Kalenjin nation. And we stood very strongly against it. We were chungwa. Those are the guys who were banana. And we went across the country describing how rotten a banana is. And that it is better an orange because it is properly secured inside the peels. And we succeeded.
And Kenyans listened.
Kenyans listened. I was almost the bishop of the Katiba.
The 2005 referendum will give a hammering blow to NARC.
Na sisi tuko tayari kama wanachunga kwenda nao mpaka kule katika debe. Timu ya Orange imeshinda timu ya Ndizi, sivyo? Bao 10-0.
This led to the formation of the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM, a political vehicle Raila Odinga used to challenge President Kibaki in 2007. William Ruto was a member of the Pentagon and vigorously campaigned for Odinga.
I think, or rather, I believe William Ruto, like the famed distance runners from his Rift Valley backyard, is a long distance runner who somehow maps and plots the whole course of the race. If it's a 42-kilometer race, he maps it pretty much in advance and knows exactly at what pace he's going to take as each stage of the 42-kilometer course. And I believe that even as he participated in the referendum push in 2005, he must have had some kind of long-term view of things.
I think, Mr. Chairman, if you can give us a bit of time, Honorable Nyanga is trying to get the agent so that he can come. No, so really, Mr. Chairman, I think that will help the cause of democracy and justice.
But it was his performance during the tallying of the disputed presidential results that Ruto is well remembered for.
16, which shows the results that were announced here were just figures, computer printouts.
It didn't have Form 16A, it didn't have Form 16, and therefore the figures that were announced here were just numbers.
Mimi Mwai Kibaki naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Jamhuri ya Kenya na kuitumikia kwa moyo wangu wote.
I don't know who called me and told me there is trouble. I asked the fellow, trouble where? Trouble at home and everywhere in the country. Before half an hour is done, the country is up in flames. So I simply want to disabuse anybody of the notion that it was planned. No, it was simply instantaneous. It was a reaction from the heart.
People didn't expect that.
No, people didn't expect that. So for anybody to come later on and start insinuating that it was planned is simply falsehood and is simply not correct. Because if it was planned, I was in this system of Orange, I would have had.
The post-election violence resulted in the death of over 1,000 people, while 600,000 others were displaced. But after protracted talks, an agreement was reached between Mwai Kibaki and Raila Odinga, leading to the formation of a historic Grand Coalition government. Kibaki retained his position as president, while Odinga was appointed to fill the newly created Prime Minister's position. William Ruto was appointed Minister for Agriculture. But things did not go well for William Ruto in ODM. He clashed with his party boss, Raila Odinga, after demanding that he becomes the second in command. Accused of corruption and temporarily being suspended by Odinga, the relationship between Ruto and his party boss had reached a point of no return. But the Eldoret North Member of Parliament will face an even bigger challenge. He was indicted by the International Criminal Court, the ICC. Together with Uhuru Kenyatta and 4 others, Ruto was facing crimes against humanity charges at the Hague-based court over the 2007-2008 post-election violence. It will be a unifying factor for what became the Uhuru Alliance. And ahead of the 2013 presidential election, they will form the Jubilee Coalition, a vehicle that they will ride on to the presidency.
Samuel Ruto.
In full realization of the high calling.
In full realization of the high calling.
I assume as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
I assume as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
He will be the first Deputy President of Kenya under the 2010 Constitution, and that will move him a step closer to the house on the hill. In his own words, he had done his calculations and knew by playing it safe, he will be there.
Wenye kuamua rais wa Kenya ni wa Kenya hawa, sio kotini.
He only needed to ensure Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election in 2017.
Tutawaomba kura yao tarehe 17, tuhakikishe ya kwamba mzee huyu sasa tumupeleke nyumbani asikuja kusumbua Ruto 2022.
Which he did.
I, Uhuru Kenyatta, realization
of the high calling
It will seem Ruto's path to State House had taken a clear shape.
as President of the Republic of Kenya.
But no sooner had Raila Odinga sworn himself in as the people's president than things started to fall apart in the House of Jubilee.
The same people who used the card of divisive, a dangerous man, that we cannot trust the country within his person. The same people who carried that narrative against Raila Odinga are now carrying the narrative against William Ruto. William Ruto is not saying, I'm going to protect the bourgeois. He's not saying, I'm going to protect the rich of the rich. He's saying, this country, since independence, has focused on the rich. And they became super rich. Some of them have joined. Can we remodel our economic? And that is all he's only saying about the economy.
William Ruto has been a victim of numerous attempts to barricade his progression, to pigeonhole him, to lock him in a pigeonhole, and to manage him, to limit him.
Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga will agree to work together, putting the DP in a tight corner.
Wewe tumechaguliwa pamoja na umeamua ya kwamba jukumu lako ni kuwa upinzani ndani ya serikali. Mimi basi nikaenda kutafuta baba, nikaenda kutafuta Wiper, Gideon, nani. Jameni njooni mnisaidie hapa kwa sababu mambo imekuwa mrama. Sasa wakinisaidia kutimiza ajenda yangu, ubaya uko wapi? Si ni mjinga hawezi kuenda kuomba usaidizi na nyumba yake huko inataka maji kuweka kuzima moto. Na moto umewashwa na wale wako ndani. Nikienda kuambia jirani, ndoo ya maji njoo. Nimefanya makosa.
His former party boss and the outgoing president had asked Kenyans to vote for his opponent, Raila Odinga. Kenyatta accused Ruto of being the architect of corruption that bedeviled his government during his first term.
Kuna mtu nilifukuza. Wenyewe ndio walijiondoa ama ni mimi niliwaondoa? Si ni wenyewe walijiondoa. Wasisimame pahali popote waseme Jubilee imefukuza mtu. Ukijifukuza jistaki wewe mwenyewe ni kwa sababu gani ulijifukuza, lakini usiseme kuna wengine ambao wamekufukuza. Umefukuzwa kwa sababu ya tamaa badala ya kutuliza tamaa. Haya, umejifukuza.
Marafiki zake, washirika wake ndio wametuibia pesa ya wagonjwa pale kwa KEMSA, na alafu wakatuambia, wakatudanganya ati siku 21 wale waliiba pesa ya KEMSA ati watapelekwa kotini. Leo ni miaka 3 hata mtu mmoja hajapelekwa kotini. Wezi wa bilioni 17.
The fight between the two have escalated in the last few days. The man from Sugoi has beaten all odds to become Kenya's 5th president.